this side, eh? So apt, isn't it?
Very moving.
It is moving. No, and I want to be a tear shed tonight at this momentous occasion, the two of you together again.
Well, obviously, we've come together again to work on Evita, but this is just a revival, so we're not really writing an awful lot new together. But we've never really been apart. We've always had strong connections because the old shows keep coming back, thank goodness. And we've written the odd song between 28 years ago and now. In fact, we've written quite a lot. If you look, we'd probably find we've written about 10 or 12 songs, but unfortunately 11 have been failures.
But the perception... the perception is, though, that, you know, you had this fallout when you were doing Evita 30 years ago, that was the end of the partnership. For whatever reason, there was temperamental differences and all that sort of thing. Was this true?
Well, not really, because, I mean, the next thing I did after the Evita was Cats, and the words for that were by T.S. Eliot. And by definition, Tim wasn't involved with that. And then you went on to do Chess.
I thought Cats was a terrible idea.
Did you?
And I resented being replaced by somebody who was dead. But I was wrong. It was a huge, huge hit. In a way, I think I felt, without actually stating it at the time, that after being dead lucky and having 3 big hits on the trot together, I thought, I don't think we can follow this. And I was dithering. I didn't really have any ideas. And Andrew had Cats, and I thought, well, that won't top those 3. And, of course, it did. And then he did bloody Phantom, and that was even bigger. So by which point I was getting a bit narked.
Well, then you moved on to Big Cats.
Yes, I did Lion King, which did quite well. So,
that's right.
You know, it was, I mean, it's strange because, you see, we've had the chance to work with lots of different people, and that's a plus. It's been great to work with people, in my case, like Elton, and you've worked with so many great lyricists, Don Black, and I think that's a plus. On the other hand, I sometimes think it would have been great if we'd done a Gilbert and Sullivan act. But we might not have kept it up.
Stayed together.
We might have just gone down the tubes together. Maybe the different partners we work with has actually helped us both.
What do you feel, Andrew? Do you feel that had you stayed together, there might have been an even more remarkable partnership?
I don't know. I think that the really important point is that in musicals, you've got to start with a great story. And I think if Tim and I found a story that we together wanted to work on, I think we would if we were around and about together and could do it.
Yeah.
Of course I think we would. But it is absolutely true that without a great story, a musical's normally in trouble.
Well, speaking of which, of course, Evita is a wonderful story. I mean, that was it was your idea, Evita, wasn't it?
Yes, I was late for a dinner, and I happened to hear the beginning of a programme, which I wouldn't have heard if I'd been on time, in my car, and I thought, this is worth listening to again, and I heard the repeat. And I didn't know anything about Eva Perón, except when I collected stamps at school, she was on all the Argentina stamps, and she was prettier than most of the other stamps. And I thought, this is a very interesting lady. And the programme compared her to James Dean. And I did know a lot about James Dean. And I thought, interesting. I didn't think James Dean was right for a musical, but we were desperately looking for something to follow up Superstar. And I suddenly thought, I'll go to Argentina and find a bit more about Eva Perón. And I'm glad I did.
And what about the new production? I mean, is it a new production? Are you adding material? How has it changed from what we saw in '78?
Probably the big difference will be not only the physical production, because Michael Grandage is directing. The original one was, of course, Hal Prince.
Yes,
it was sort of iconic, what he did.
Yes.
But Michael is approaching it from a very, very different perspective. And I'm going to go over the score somewhat, because I'm going to make it much more Latin. I mean, when I wrote it, oh no, all that time ago now, I mean, it is over 30 years ago that we started.
Yes.
Latin music wasn't anything like as known in Britain, certainly in Britain, as it is today.
Yes.
And I kind of missed, I think, the tango. I mean, there is a bit of a tango.
Oh, you've got a tango in it, have you?
Well, there's a bit in Don't Cry For Me, actually, and that, you know...
There's a bit of old thumping tango going on back there.
But, I mean, is revisiting an established show like this and having the chance to get your mitts on it again, is there a temptation to change something? I mean, change a lyric, for instance, changes a tune.
Yes, there always is, and I found that certainly words-wise. Even with Joseph, I've tried to change lyrics that don't rhyme properly, and kids and teachers say, no, we love those lines. And in a way, if they work, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But in the case of Evita, we did write a new song for the movie with Madonna.
Yes.
And we're putting that song into the stage production here because it worked really well in the film.
Right.
So that's a first in one sense.
And another first, of course, is that you've got the first Argentinian actress to play, and we saw her there. I mean, she's extraordinary, isn't she? She brings a real kind of authenticity.
The great thing is she's not really a clone of anybody else.
No.
I mean, we've seen so many people do Argentina over the years, and we wish the song wasn't 5 minutes long sometimes. But it's somebody who this time around is not trying to do Elaine Page, not trying to do Julie Covington, not trying to do Patti LuPone, not trying to do Madonna. It's so uniquely her own.
That reminds me, actually, of when Don't Cry For Me, Argentina got to #1 in the disco charts. I thought, how can it be that a 6-minute single with a 1-minute orchestral break at the beginning of it could be possibly #1 in the disco charts? So I inquired, and it was the record they used to clear the disco at the end of the evening.
Now, can we go right the way back to the beginning? Because I've got a lovely treat for you now. In the course of doing research for this programme, I came across a wonderful appearance that you made, the two of you, when you were so young, it's not true, with my old mate, the late and very lamented Russell Hart.
Oh, lovely Russell.
Yeah, I love the old Russ. But I've forgotten how young you were when you did all this wonderful stuff. But you were incredibly young, the two of you. Have a look at this.
Is it true that both of you entered a song for the Eurovision Song Competition?
Oh yes, that was about 4 or 5 years ago. The year Boom Bang Bang won it with about 9 other countries. It was a 9-way tie that year. It was very embarrassing. And
Everybody won it then?
yes.
We didn't, however, get past the first round.
We didn't get to the last 50. We wrote a song. We really tried to write a song that would appeal to Eurovision.
Yeah.
And we failed terribly, but the song ended up in
It's a terrible trait to particularly friends, but we couldn't resist that, actually.
Thank you.
That's the last interview you did.
The last interview you did. But you did, I mean, what you did, you brought pop music, and then you created pop opera, really, basically. That's what you did, wasn't it, in a sense?
Yes, it was a bit of a mistake, Superstar, because we probably, if we'd been offered a theatre version of it when we'd written it, we probably would have put it on in Plymouth, out of town, and it would have been, frankly, perhaps rather square and written and altered for the dictates of a small theatre. But because nobody wanted to do Superstar in the theatre, we were forced to do it as a record,
yes.
Which A, meant we had to make it much more rocky, and Andrew was able to let rip with a wonderful rock band, and B, it had to be short, and every musical in life is 10 minutes too long. In fact, everything in life is 10 minutes too long, frankly, probably including what I'm saying now. But basically, we had to make a short, concise, rocky.
Yes.
And also we ditched the book. And we only ditched the book. It wasn't genius. It was the fact we can't have Jesus coming on a record and saying, "Hi, Judas, what's happening today?" Because that would have been pretty boring, played more than once.
But the one thing that did come out of it, though, I felt, was that as a composer, one controlled the whole event. And that's why I prefer to write, if I can, with a through-written score, because
yes.
you can actually control the light and shade of the
Yeah.
whole evening. And
Yeah.
I mean, you know, as a director yourself, I mean, it's wonderful to be in charge of the way it all goes, if you can possibly be.
Yes. All right. Now, has the method of working again with together after all that time, has the method of collaboration changed at all? I mean, in other words, have the two of you over the years evolved different ways of working?
I don't know, we had a lot of fun this summer because there was a musical that Tim and I wrote a long time ago, which never got on, about the life of Dr. Bernardo, called The Likes of Us.
That was the very first thing you wrote,
That was the first thing we ever did, and we did it at the little festival I do every year. And in fact, we wrote a couple of songs in the course of that. And it was pretty much the same because I had a couple of melodies, and that's the way round we've always used to work, was I would come up with the tune first, and Tim set them.
But as Andrew said earlier, the key thing is the story. If you're doing a musical, you've got to get the plot first.
Yes.
So it's plot, music, lyrics.
Yes.
And we both have to be happy with the storyline.
Yes, I mean, we
are
signed
both-
off on the storyline together always,
Yes.
and where the light and shade should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I prefer writing that way around. I mean, Elton only writes with words first, amazingly. And you name it, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road,
Yes.
Down There with Sung, I mean,
Yeah,
the
Bernie
lot.
Taupin sends him the lyrics
Yeah.
and he puts the tune to it. Yeah.
And when I worked with Elton, I did it that way round, and it was completely different to working with Andrew. But actually, it in a way, was quite nice to do it that way round
Yes.
for once.
Yeah.
But if you write on a blank piece of paper with no tune, it's very easy to start waffling and write 28 lines where you could do it in 3. And if you have a tune first, it makes you be concise.
Do you think the lyricist has a harder time?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because when the guy writes the tune, he writes verse 1, he's written 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Actually,
Exactly.
it's very unfair. There are plenty of other aspects. But I mean, sometimes I think... I'll tell you one thing, it is... often takes longer, genuinely. I mean, Andrew thinks I'm the laziest sod on, around, but it does take a long time sometimes to write 8 verses. I mean, Argentina, Oh What a Circus, brilliantly have the same basic melodic structure. And Muggins has to write 2 loads of verses to that. But against that, he has to do hundreds of orchestrations. It evens out.
Is he a lazy soul?
Yes.
He is. Yes. Frank exchange of views. Now, what about, I mean, apart from this, which is happening in June, the new production of Evita, you've got a Whistle Down the Wind, another of your musicals coming in.
Yes, it's coming in for a short time.
For a
it's
short
a
term.
production that Bill Kenwright did. It's
Yeah.
quite different to the one which was in London before.
Yeah.
Bill's always been passionate about Whistle Down the Wind. The film, I mean, he was in love with Hayley Mills like everybody was.
wasn't, yeah.
And it's a lovely production.
What about your ambitions to write a cricket musical? In fact, you did that, didn't you?
We did a little oratorio years ago.
Yeah, that's
yes,
right.
Which maybe one day we'll re-record that.
That'd be a good idea.
Brilliant idea.
I mean, he'd bore him absolutely speechless, but...
It's got a bit of racing in it. He quite likes the horses.
Oh, he likes the horses.
It's got a little bit of both. Actually, we wrote it for the Queen's 60th birthday. It was
So we had to
a
stick
while
the
ago.
horses in.
Why do you get racing into a cricket musical?
Well, I wanted to illustrate the difference between the average racing man and the average cricketer. One was noble, upright, honest, and the others were dodgy punters.
But Andrew and Tim, thank you very much indeed. Andrew, Bob, over to you.